Hello. Today we're going to be talking about why this is the fastest way to get more clients in 2025 and what this is. And I made that headline specifically worded that way because this is actually what I'm going to be talking about, and it's a little meta, but you'll figure it out later in the conversation. So, welcome if you're listening to this on Facebook or X or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, anywhere. Welcome. Please let me know in the comments that you're here. First of all, so I know that it's actually working because we're streaming to multiple platforms. And then, of course, it'll help in some of the examples I want to give. So if you're around here, just say hi, drop a little comment. I'll be very happy to see you. Say hi, and then also I might ask a few questions. Now, if you have any questions during this broadcast, please, by all means, put them in the comments, and I'll try to see if I see all the comments from the different platforms here. But I definitely should be able to see the ones from Facebook and YouTube. So just put your comments there, and it'll be fun. So, the topic of today's conversation: why this is the fastest way to get more clients in 2025, and what this is. So we're going to talk about a few different things, different approaches that we've seen through the years. Before that, I want to talk about who I am and why you should listen to me if you want to, and you don't have to. But I'm the author of a couple of bestsellers in the marketing space. I've been training people and have trained thousands of people around the world in Facebook advertising, specifically marketing automations, email marketing, that sort of stuff. And even trained large corporations, their marketing teams in this topic as well. And so we've seen what happens behind the scenes in small businesses a lot, and then in some bigger businesses as well, and what people are doing with their ads and what is and isn't working. And so I'm going to tell you what you should do or what you can do in 2025. That's going to be great. But first, let's talk about why your ads may not be working right now. So we have a little community of the Hispanic market for marketing. And one of our members yesterday was saying that she used to have great results with her ads for years after taking our workshops. And regardless of the workshops, it works because advertising works. And you must know this if you don't take away anything else. Advertising does work. It's just don't pull the plug before it works, right? So it's just a matter of how long it took to work, but it definitely works. But there are reasons why it may or may not work for you specifically or for your business. And a lot of it has to do with focus. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. And then later, I'm going to talk about how we can take this and scale it up for free as well. So it doesn't have to be about paid media. All right. So let's talk about why, if you are running ads for your business, why they might not be working, or maybe they were working and now they're not working as well. And it all comes down to focus. So focus means that when you're talking to someone on an ad, on a headline, on any type of media, you have to make sure that, one, you're talking to that person. So like right now, I'm talking to you, right? I don't envision a group of people, because that couldn't work. I'm not in a stadium. And I heard this analogy a few days ago. I thought it was great. Social media is not like speaking on a stage, because you're talking to people on their phone. So it's them you should be talking to. If you're considering doing a live stream or recording a video or creating an ad, talk to that specific person, not to a group that might be more of a generic thing. When you think of a group, then you lose a little bit of context of who that person is, and then it's harder to give examples, and it's harder to talk to them in a genuine way. Now, it's obviously, if you're on stage, it works great, but if you're running an ad or something like that, just think about one person, and that's where it starts. So first, you need to figure out who that person is. If you're selling something to someone, figure out who your ideal customer is or your typical customer and think about what they want. You start with that. So you think about, okay, what is it that they want? You'll soon realize that it's not that they want your thing or that they want it from you necessarily, though in certain cases that might be the case. It's more of they want to achieve a certain result. They want something that your thing might give them. And so you have to think about who that person is first as an individual, a man, a woman, certain age, where they live, what their interests are, what their hobbies are, where they are in life. Are they a business owner? Do they work somewhere? Do they just travel a lot? It doesn't matter. It's just getting a feel of who that person is and then understanding why they need your thing, your product or your service. And so you get into this little exercise where you figure out why do they want that. So you take what they want, which might be your product or it might be an outcome, and then you go deeper and you figure out what is it that makes that thing the solution for their problem. And so you say, okay, what do they want? And then from there you can go into what they need. So what their need is a little deeper. It's a little better. If you understand what they need, then you can go into their desires and then you can go into the fears. And it sounds a little creepy, but it's not. Trust me. It's fears means what would happen if they don't get that. So maybe they want your widget or they want your service and it's not something that they just want for the just because it's because at the end of the day they want the outcome that that thing gives them. And so if you understand what the fear is, in other words, if you understand what would happen if they don't get that, then that's where the true value comes, because at that point you can start speaking to that, not necessarily just to the superficial part of the product. So let's take some headphones, for example. So you have these headphones. And so, yes, they're headphones. And so maybe they want headphones, and that's where you start. But do they just want headphones? They could be like $5 headphones or 99-cent headphones. Well, no. If you think about what they really want, well, maybe they want some that sound well, that sound good, that have the good sound quality. Okay, good. And maybe they want some that can connect to their phone automatically and they don't need to put like a wire on them. They could just use Bluetooth. So okay, that's another step. And then, but maybe they want noise canceling on them. And so if they want noise canceling, then why do they want noise canceling? So, well, okay, it turns out they have a long commute and they're on the subway or on the bus or anywhere. And they need a way to take the noise out. So they need noise canceling. So you start getting deeper into that and then you realize what happens if they don't get that. And then you go into, okay, that fear, what's the fear? Just putting a word to it, is that they will not be able to perform during the day because they're so overwhelmed because of all the noise on their commutes that their performance is going to decrease. They get to work tired and they can't do their work. Now, if they have a noise canceling headset, then maybe they can listen to a podcast on the way there. They can listen to classical music or jazz or rock, whatever they want. They get there in another completely different mood. So you start understanding what their particular wants, needs, desires, and fears are, and then you can create or draft a message that aligns to that, to the thing that's really behind why they are purchasing this. And that's where the value is. So when you start creating or drafting your headlines or your images or your videos, obviously nowadays, you need to take all that into account so that when they're looking at your feed, they can, or their feed, and then you appear right there as an interruption, which really that's what advertising is. They can say, oh, this is actually something that I might be interested in, right? And so that is very, very good because it allows you to tap into something deeper than just a basic ad. right? Okay, so enough about paid ads for now. Let's talk about focus in another context. If it is true what we were discussing right now, that your ad will get better conversions if you're talking to that specific individual, then how can we take that and scale it in a way where you can reach thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people, depending on your type of business, of course, and get them to actually come to you and get them to actually convert? So I'm going to do a very brief overview of what we typically would teach people many years ago. It would be things like, okay, so first you're going to create an audience. So you have Facebook, you have your page, you create a page, you have the property on Facebook, and you talk about what your business does, and you add a little bit of content on the page, then you start paying for traffic to come in to your page because organic was declining 8 years ago a ton. And so you had to get your audience. And so you had to say, okay, so get an audience. Maybe you have 10,000, 20,000 followers and 50,000, whatever. What would happen then is a small percentage, 5%, 10% of those would see your content. And so every time you publish, that percentage of people would see it. And so some people see it and maybe they share it, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how it works. And then you use your audience to create like a lookalike audience and get other people similar to them. And that's where you start advertising. And all that seems good. And it worked. But things have changed. Whether you like to hear of it or not, because I know it's a bit of a controversial topic, the app that changed everything recently was TikTok. And TikTok changed everything because of discovery. So what we used to do before and what we would teach people to do before still works. However, TikTok has allowed us, not only in their platform, but because everyone followed, to skip one of the steps. Because TikTok, what it did was that now anyone could post something and then get virality into that post or media without having a following because of the discovery part of it. Which means someone's just scrolling and you see, oh, this looks interesting, and then maybe you share it, you like it, whatever. TikTok shows that to other people with similar interests, and then it just blasts this out into the universe, right? And so what could happen is someone with 5 followers, and 4 of them being their family members, could suddenly have 1 billion views without a following. And so that's the magic of discovery. And that's why the other platforms followed suit. Now they all have their sort of discovery feature. And so this is very important to understand, because now you don't need to create a following first. You can, and it's great to create a following, but you can get the traffic and the eyeballs without it. And that's what I want to talk about today. So if you have a small business and you sell, doesn't matter what you sell. You might sell roofing, you might sell shutters, you might sell boxes for packing, you might sell headphones, you might have a car shop where you do services for vehicles, right? Doesn't matter what you do. Maybe it's a bakery, maybe it's a paint shop, anything you can think of. If you have a business, you can use this to your advantage, because now you can create video. And even if you don't have a huge following, you're not an influencer or anything of that nature, you can get hundreds or thousands or millions of people to view it and create rapport with them, or basically goodwill between you two. And then when they do need a service that you provide or your product, then who are they going to go with? They're going to go with you. So that's what's really, really powerful in 2025, because you, as a business owner now, and it's even easier, of course, because the cameras have gotten better and cheaper, and even the phones, the iPhones have that feature where you can just put the phone and it'll use the camera to have like different angles of you, and then the desk. You can do a ton of things without having to actually buy professional equipment, and it all looks very good, and you can just start recording. And so what I want to recommend, if you want to get more clients and you don't want to pay necessarily for those clients, and anyone can do this. Just start creating content, right? And that's why at the beginning of the video I said it's all about this, and actually this, what I'm doing now. That's what you need to do. You don't have to do a live stream. Some people do live streams. They like doing live streams. Some people don't like doing live streams because whatever. It's not necessarily for everyone. But videos, anyone can do. And it's not about production value. It's not about thumbnails. While all these work, again, discovery changes everything, because in these social platforms, the way they've evolved is the platform is media. It's no longer just social. It doesn't matter what your circle is. It doesn't matter what your follower count is necessarily, because people can still see you based on the content that you're providing. And so step one is grab your camera and start recording content. Okay? So let's do an example. Let's say you own a car shop. And so if you own this car shop and you want people to know about you, well, what do? You grab your camera, you go down to the shop, and you just start talking about the things you're an expert in. So if you have this shop, you probably know about cars, at least a bit, I would imagine. And so you can go down and what's one of the most popular services that these companies have? Oil changes, right? Everyone who doesn't have an EV needs an oil change. And so, okay, let's talk about that. Why do you need an oil change? A regular person might not know why these oil changes are necessary and why you have to do them every certain period of time. So you can just go down and grab one of those dipsticks and show a person like, okay, this is what it looks like when it's new oil, and you can pour it from. You can even take it further. You can grab a nice little crystal cup or container or glass container and put them on a table. Say, okay, this is oil when it's lubricating your engine. This is what it will look like. And you can just pour it into one of the cups. And they say, okay, now this is what oil looks like after 6 months or 10,000 miles. I don't know, whatever. And you grab it, you pour it in, you're seeing all the gunk, and it's going to be all black. And so I think that's a very visual reminder for people to, okay, so that's what happens. That's why I want to change the oil. So you can just do something like that. Just explain to them why you need the lubricant, how it helps the engine, which is moving at, and then you can talk about the revolutions per minute and what the engine is actually doing. And you can get all technical if you want or not, but you can show them what is the reason behind that. And that's just one example. You can do that for everything. You could just talk about how you bake and what's the process and what is a nice trick to do if you don't have baking powder, how you can create it using baking soda and an acid. And like, you can do all sorts of things just talking about what you already know and love. And I think that's a great thing. It's not fake, it's not false, it's not selling. You're just talking to someone as if someone comes to your shop and they ask you a question, and you just give them the answers because you know about this, and that's why you built your business in theory. It's to help other people with a result that you can give them based on the service or product that you offer. So it's not that hard. It's just starting, and just get over the fear of talking to a camera. It's fine. People don't need huge production value nowadays. They just need to see something authentic. People are interested to learn. So everyone wants to learn. And so at the very least, you'll teach something to people. And then at best, those people will know about your business and talk about it with other people, right? And then, of course, there's calls to action. I'll talk about that in a second. But the most important thing is that you start creating content. Now, you start creating content. Video is very easy. It sounds, counterintuitive. No, it is. If you think about what media used to be before, and you had to run a newspaper ad or a television ad, obviously very expensive, but also the process of doing it, you would have to have copywriters and have someone do it and do the research and then put it on and then hope, fingers crossed, let's see if it works. Here, it's just you and your team, if you want, and you just grab your phone and start recording. You don't have to put a ton of thought into it. You can do a whole production if you want, or you want to be an influencer. You can do that. You can have a YouTube channel. You can do that. But people like authenticity. Even And today even more because of AI, because we're just getting flooded with AI generated stuff. And so a lot of people want that human touch still. So you can use AI to support, of course, that's fine, and even to create your videos if you want, but there's still that human aspect that people crave. And so if you can and you're able, grab your phone and start recording content and put it on your channel and put it on the different platforms, because there's many platforms. There's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube, there's X, there's Instagram. And I'm looking at my screen here because I'm broadcasting to all of them as I speak right now. And then there's TikTok, of course, and Snapchat. And in different markets around the world, there are different platforms that are being used more. So take that into consideration as well. In some cases, you have a local business, and so your approach is going to be more of a local one. But in other cases, you have maybe a business that runs in the whole country, or maybe you have a business that's multinational, right? It doesn't matter. The content is the same, and you can get this reach. And then when someone needs your service, they already trust you because they know that you know what you're talking about because you've shown them. And that's where the value is. So first, we were just talking about doing it. Well, cool, great. You'll maybe have some people watch it, but what's the real value in it? For you, it's that all these people are instantly getting goodwill from you. You're doing these people, some people call them deposits of goodwill. And so you're giving them all this information for free. You're just helping them, but you don't have to help one person. You're helping everyone by doing this. And just think about it that way. Someone comes to your office, to your business, and they ask you something, you help them. You just help one individual. And it took you 2 minutes. Well, you can take 2 minutes to record the video and help 1 million people. So just think about it that way. And now, again, those people will recommend it. Someone will come and talk to someone else that's completely unrelated. And we've seen this happen, by the way. And somebody will, maybe they're not your customer. Maybe they don't even live in the same city, right? And they're talking with someone over dinner, and maybe a relative, and they're like, yeah, I need to take my car to the shop, but I don't know who to trust, and it's and maybe someone at the table is going to be like, oh, Joe's shop? I think that's near your house. And we don't even live in that city, but I've seen their content. It's great. It's fun. And so they'll go there. They'll just trust it because you have that recommendation for someone who doesn't even know you as a customer, but they know you through the content that you have been providing. So that's what's important. And so, yes, you can have call to actions within the thing, and I'll talk about those in a second, but it's so important that you start creating the content. I can't stress that enough. And some of you need to hear this. Start, right? And don't stop. That's the other thing. You don't want to stop, because as you start, maybe there's going to be 4 people that watch it, or nothing. No one. Or maybe 100 people. Doesn't matter, because the algorithms don't know about your content. Think about that. If you post something, how is the algorithm going to know who to show your thing? Unless you create a lot of things such that the algorithm understands, oh, this person talks about baking, or this person talks about cars. And so as you post more, the algorithms understand what you are all about. And so that's also why it's important to sort of focus your efforts on something, a type of thing that you do, or a service, or an industry, or a niche, or a market. Because that way the algorithm understands what you're all about. And then it already knows what the people on their platform want. And so it'll start showing your content to those people based on the understanding of what you are offering and what they like. So if you've never used TikTok, their engine is amazing, because you go on it and you're just going through it, or swiping through it, or able to just scroll through the different videos. And as soon as you stay a little longer on something, it immediately starts adding a little weight to that category or interest. And so you might be seeing trash when you just open your account, but in seconds, it starts getting you tailored, or you get your own version of the algorithm tailored to you because of the things you actually stopped in or liked, etc. And so immediately it starts understanding and giving you that feedback. And so whether you like it or not, it's not that you have to use TikTok. You don't even have to use it at all. It's just understand what they did with the discovery and what the other platforms did with that. Okay, so that's why it's really important. And as Gary Vee said the other day, he was saying, I don't care if you have opinions about TikTok. If you're a business, you need to make decisions based on the business value. So if your customers are on TikTok more than on Facebook or Instagram or X, then maybe you should talk there as well, right? So it's not leave your opinions of the platform and the politics aside. If you care about growing your business and your audience is there, then you should tailor to them as well. If they're not, which is fine, then you don't. Or if you think that your audience is a different demographic and maybe they're on Facebook or on Instagram more, then perfect. Focus on those. I don't necessarily focus on TikTok a lot, but it's good to know that and consider it, because when I heard that, I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe I'm not an avid user of it, but yeah, it makes sense that it would actually help, right? So having said that, if you have any questions, of course, please. Actually, let's look in here. And I see some people are here in the live chat. Hello. And it's interesting when we're streaming here. I don't know if it brings in all the comments from the different. I'm using a different platform. I don't know if it's bringing in all the comments in here or not. So if you could do me a favor, comment anything, even a period. I don't care. Just to see if it appears here. That would be great. Okay. So now let's talk about calls to action. Calls to action, when we're talking about advertising, are one of the 5 most important things, okay? And the call to action is really important because once you've gathered their attention and once you've told them what they're there for and how you can solve it and why they should trust you, now, I mean, you've hooked them at that point. You have to tell them what to do. You can't make it hard for them. And that's why calls to action in advertising are extremely important. You have to tell a person what the next step is. However, I think there's a small difference here. When you're doing advertising, by all means, always consider a call to action. Very, very important. I can't stress the importance enough in paid advertising. However, let's talk about this. Doing video content, goodwill, just sharing your knowledge and giving people the information that might help them make a better decision for when they're in the market for something that you sell. That part doesn't, in my opinion, need a call to action. This is a personal opinion, but you should have calls to action available. So they should, you obviously in your branding, in your marketing, in your channel, everywhere, you should have ways for them to get in touch and ways for them to know what you're all about and what they could do, right? So you should have in your descriptions, of course, have a way for them to fill out a form or schedule a visit, whatever you want. But you don't have to make it overly obvious in the video all the time because people read that, right? So, and you've seen this. You go on a video, you're watching it, looks great, you're getting a ton of content, you're like, yeah, awesome. Yeah. And then it sort of starts to taper out. At the end, you sort of start feeling something in your gut, like you know they're going to sell you something at the very end. So you're sort of watching it, and then it gets to a point where they're like, oh, and if you think that something like this would be good for you, go to our free whatever. Okay, cool. That's great. It's great that you do that because at that point you get some people to take an action and do something with your business, right? That's great. But don't do it all the time because people shut off, right? So they're watching and they're like, oh, we're getting to that point next. And they'll go to a next video and you're done, right? So what did it really help? Well, no, nothing. You just lost some points in the goodwill. So another thing that's common in the space is when we're talking about giving those little goodwill points, right? You're giving. At the moment you give them a call to action or you sell them something, you're taking, right? So you're adding goodwill, and the more time you take before an ask is how much more the people have that rapport, or you have that rapport with them, and how much more they will actually take an action or want to do something. And so instead of selling in each video, which a lot of people do, consider just giving them the information. Again, it's not costing you anything. So yeah, it might take a little longer at the beginning, but it will have extremely bigger dividends down the road if you just give without taking. Okay, so what you want to do is just create this awesome content, and then maybe every 3 or 4 videos, not every 3 or 4 minutes in the video, now every 3 or 4 videos or even longer, then you have one video that sort of talks about the service that you offer. And so it's not within the context of, hey, I'm giving you this wonderful value, by the way, do this, which is what people are expecting nowadays, and that's when they shut off, and sort of it's a little turn off sometimes. I think, personal opinion, again, you could do whatever you want, it's great if you just give value, because you don't see that so much, right? There's a few people that do that, like Gary Vee, like he's just always doing, or Alex Hormozy, or those kind of people. They've figured out that they're not selling, their business is not there. Their business is way down the line. So they're playing the long game. And so you could do that as well, because you're just providing that content. And again, every so often you have those little pieces which are more salesy, if you want, or where you talk about the service or the product, etc. But there's an even better approach. And here's a tip for you. You can technically include this without including it. Hear me out. So you are in you're creating a video. So instead of waiting until the end to create, like, oh, by the way, we have this car shop in San Antonio, and just go to blah blah blah, whatever. Instead of doing that, consider spooling into your story what it is that you do. So when you're giving the content, in the case of the car shop, for example, the owner could be recording this video, and they could say something like, oh yeah, Jill walked in the other day to our car shop, and she brought the car, and it looked marvelous from the outside. It was sparkling clean, and the wheels looked amazing. But then we looked under the hood, and then you go into the store, and so you show the oil thing, and then so what are you doing there? Well, depending on how you film it and everything, you're placing the people there in your business, so they understand who you are, what you're doing, what type of people come to the shop, and then you tell the story, so you weave into that story context, so they understand what you're all about again, and then you share the value within that. And so that's a great way to include what you do without actually including it as a salesy kind of thing, which I think is great, especially when I've seen it with other people. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's just part of it. It just seems natural. And so people are just so used to being sold from forever, from TV and radio and all sorts of advertising, that when you do it in this sort of genuine way, it changes things, and you get a much better audience. You get a much more engaged audience as well. And then whenever they do need your service, they already know who you are. You already have that rapport. And so it's a lot easier to now, of course, sell the product or service, which is not a bad thing. Many people think, oh, I don't want to sell. Of course, you're in business. Of course you want to sell. That's why you're doing the business, right? You want to help the people get a result or achieve an outcome, but you have to sell them something to achieve that. Unless you're a nonprofit, which you still have to sell them in a certain case. And so that's very important. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Oh, Carlos. Carlos put a period. Yeah. Okay. So we are getting YouTube comments in the dashboard. That's excellent. So just start creating content. That's the most important thing. Create content, give. And then every so often you have those call to action videos if you want. If you want to include a lot more context of what you do and what they can get from you within the video without feeling like a sale, then include it into the story, weave it into the story, and that will help you a lot as well. If you don't do it, nothing changes. If you do it, maybe nothing changes either, but at least you've helped 5-10 people learn something new. So it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't cost you. It's just a little bit of time. Grab your phone, do your recordings, and publish them. And that will help. Either it's going to help them or it's going to help you. But most likely, it's going to help both of you. So please, if you take anything away from this, start recording your content. Don't be shy about the quality. People love authenticity. Don't read the comments. If they're negative comments, just ignore them completely. You don't have to do anything about those. If you get, which is most likely, if you get good comments and people actually ask you things or give you kudos for sharing that, then that's great because you'll know you're in the right path. And then in another video, I'll talk about how you can actually use the tools to improve or increase the outreach as well. So I talked about all the organic stuff, but at the end of the day, if you do have some budget for marketing, then you can post and post and post and post and post. You keep going at it, and then eventually you find one that suddenly took off. You can say, oh, perfect, this one, that's what people like, apparently. And then you can boost it, right? You can give it a little boost and on the different platforms in a local radius around where you live, for example. The X just added that feature as well. Facebook has had it for years. And so that's great because it's another way to now do like a very targeted attack on that market, which is very close to your local business, but without wasting money, because at that point you already know that people interacted with it or liked it, which means you probably hit the nail with who you're talking to and what you should be saying. Hope that makes sense. All right, so like I said, I don't have anything to tell you at this moment, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please just share it with anyone that you think might take advantage of it. If you have a small business or a hobby and they want to get into a small business, or they work at a company and they're doing marketing and they're not getting the results that they want, this really works. So I just wanted to share this. Let me know what you think in the comments as well, and I'll see you in the next one.